live, you are live. Oh, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have VM, the wildebeest, on camera with me this afternoon. And out strolling through the bush, Brent and Jandre are looking for some of the smaller things to show you. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is a live safari. So everything that you're seeing on your screens is happening right here on Djuma and Arathusa game reserves within the Sabi Sands. And we're also interactive, so if you have any questions you'd like to send through, like for example, how my hair turned bright red while I was on leave, then you can send those through to #SafariLive, or you can email them through to questions@wildearth.tv. Now I'm going to keep going because I'm on my way to Arathusa, where I hear reports of all kinds of exciting animals waiting to be seen. Let's go see if we can find them. It is of course wonderful to be back with you all. Oh, look at that weather. It's 26 degrees centigrade, which is I think 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a nice warm day, but it's not as baking hot as it has been. And there's definitely some beautiful clouds in the sky, as VM just showed you. I think we might be in for some rain, but I'm not too sure. We'll just have to wait and see. Apparently it has rained while I've been gone. So it's good to come back and see everything so lusciously green looking. I spent my... oh, there we go. Looking really stunning. What a beautiful afternoon to be out and about in the bush. I've just come back. I shouldn't try and talk and breathe and swallow at the same time. It just doesn't work out too well. I've just come back from 3 days in Kruger, and it really is the most incredible place that we're in. And to think that we're in such a vast wilderness area, nearly 3 million hectares worth of just open space and protected wildlife. It's the greatest feeling. We also happened to see 4 leopards in 2 days, which is unusual. It took me about 15 years to see my first leopard in Kruger as a child, so that was very, very exciting. And definitely the place that I wanted to be in when I was a kid. I spent the first week of my leave in Joburg, and Johannesburg is a big city. I'm not really built for big cities, especially spending the days sitting in SARS. I'm just going to try and get that cuckoo. If we can get it from here. I don't want it to fly away. Oh, beautiful. Looks like a red-chested cuckoo. Nice to see them out and about again. Where's my binoculars? And I've noticed that all of the cuckoos have arrived back since I've been on. There it goes. That's the cuckoo that makes the sound. Pick my throat is what we used to call them as kids. Onwards to Arathusa. And thank you all for the welcome back messages. It is, as I said, wonderful to be back. And it's amazing how much a place can change in 2 weeks. It's so much greener, hearing different bird calls, just like that cuckoo. Now the red-chesteds don't migrate, but they do go very quiet during the winter months, so you hardly ever hear them, you hardly ever see them. Nice to see them out now. And of course what he or she, I don't know whether it was a male or a female, but they'll be out looking to find certain types of nests to lay their eggs in, because of course cuckoos are famous for being brood parasites. And there's so many different theories about why it is they've evolved that system of parental care, which is essentially to just lay an egg in somebody else's nest and leave them to raise your chick. I don't know why they do it. It's really interesting to think about. but there's a species called a Deirdre's cuckoo that can imitate, Deirdre's cuckoos can imitate somewhere in the region of 24 different egg species, because of course every bird lays different looking eggs, and you need to fool the host so that they don't push it out of the nest. And they've evolved this incredible way of imitating whatever host they choose, and it's species specific, so certain species of cuckoo will only parasitize certain other species of bird, which is so clever because it means that they're not all competing to try and lay in the same species nest. It's just a way of spreading out the labor, as it were, a little bit further. Now we test and see if Jamie still knows her way around Arethusa. I should. I haven't been on for that long. Just going to switch over game drive channels. Barbara, you are sort of on to me as to where I'm on my way to. Apparently the Birmingham boys were seen this morning at Arethusa. So Barbara, I'm on my way to them now. I'm very curious, of course, to see if anything's changed whilst I've been gone. I also heard reports that Shadow is in the area as well. I'm very curious. I'm very keen to see her. I haven't seen her in ages. And I hear stories that she may have been mating with Tingana as well while I've been gone. So he's certainly been a busy boy over the last few months. I have a feeling he might be slightly exhausted at this point. What has this swindle got? Oh, straight into the sun. Let's see if we can have a look. Well spotted there. Red-billed hornbill has picked up something. I can't quite see what it is. Off he goes. Disappearing off to enjoy whatever he managed to catch off somewhere away from our view. I think it might have been a piece of dung. Many of the regular viewers, you will have seen them sort of sifting through the buffalo dung for all of the termites that they find there. I think that might be what he's doing. We saw it yesterday. We were sitting on the bridge around Orpin. Sorry, not Orpin, Olifants, the bridge that goes over the Olifants River. And a tawny eagle came down and picked up a piece of dung, and I think it was by mistake. He just looked really embarrassed for a long time, just sat there with it in his mouth. Oh, it wasn't a tawny eagle, it was a yellow-billed kite. But amazing place to go and visit. Now, Raisa, you were wondering if I checked the ages of those leopards that we saw in Kruger and any identifying features, because you're on the lookout for one of Karuna's sons, and I don't think it would have been any of them. We were very, very far. Look, it's not unknown, it's not unheard of for leopards to disperse that far. We were all the way a good, I don't know, about 100 kilometers away from the Djuma boundary when we saw them. The one was a male, but he was not young. He was around, I would say, I think he was probably around 8 years old, but he wasn't relaxed at all. He was very, very skittish. And the other three were females. I don't think so. It's unlikely, but I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled when I next go into Kruger. I'm just going to try and hop on the Game Drive channel now while the guides are all somewhere close to the lodge and just see if I can get an update. Afternoon stations, Jamie WildEarth. Can I have routes and sightings updates, please? Copy that, thank you. What was the last position of the Birmingham? Right, well, we're going to go from guesswork and descriptions there. We struggle a little bit to hear on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. I'm just making my way along Zebra Drive. I'll come and give you a hand and see if I can pick up anything this side. Ah, here we go. Hello.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
I'm going to go try and pull up that side. Another set around the power lines and all that, and then flying down that side. So
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to see.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can get something that side quickly.
Okay, perfect, thanks. I'll go around.
Yeah, maybe try from Birmingham Males.
Yeah.
But I'm
Cool.
sure haven't
I'll go and shift around that side. Thank you. Bye guys, have a good afternoon. Helping hand from Cedric, who is one of the Arethusa guides. So what we're going to do, essentially how we're planning this out, is he's going to go around that way and I'm going to go around that way to sort of encircle where they were last seen. And between the two of us, if the lions have moved, we should definitely pick up on their tracks. Oh, there's even some groundwater. It is so nice to see this much moisture back in the ground. I hope it stays this way. I was talking about something before that encounter, I can't remember. Oh yes, Karuna's son. Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out within Kruger. It's so interesting to see how different, first of all, how different the leopards look on that side, all the way close to Mozambique. And not only that, but how different their behavior is, just in terms of their responses. The two of them that we saw were essentially main road leopards. So they were really comfortable around vehicles coming through, completely relaxed and ignored us just like the leopards here do. But the one male it was actually quite amazing to see, just because it's so nice to see a truly, really wild leopard. And totally square ears. I've never seen ears like that in a leopard. And size as well. Those females were absolutely huge. And I think because the competition along those riverfront territories where all the best food is, that competition really pushes and brings out the biggest, strongest leopards in the area. Some exciting stuff, so thank you to Lynn and Laura. You're letting me know that there are lions at the Arethusa Dam. You've seen them on the camera. And for those of you who don't know, there is a 24-hour live dam camera both at Arethusa and at Djuma Game Reserves. So if you're not watching us on our live safaris, which we do twice a day, then you can always switch over and see what's happening around the dams, and you never know, you might get just as lucky that there's lions around here. So let's head across. We're very, very close. The dam's right here. Let's see if we can find them. And if you are joining us for the first time, I'm just going to take this opportunity to quickly say hello and welcome. And please let us know if this is the first time you're watching. We have a group of wonderfully dedicated viewers who've learned a great deal, I think, from watching these live safaris over the years. But if you're new and you have a question about something basic, feel free to ask. We're always keen to hear from all the different viewers out there, and let us know where you're from as well. Sounds like that they were on the dam wall off to the left somewhere. I don't know if it's the Birmingham boys or if it was other lions, but let's go and find out. Now, by the sounds of it, from what Lynn and Laura told me, the lions were on the dam wall to the left of the camera. So that's the wall, that's to the west of it. Let's see if we can find them. The one thing about all this rain and all of the plants sort of coming back to life after their period of basically dormancy is that they all grow back into the road, and you spend a great deal of time ducking them. Alrighty, let's see. At the dam now. Ooh, Jigger's got squeaky. Here we go, let's see if we can spot them. I wonder if they went over the dam wall or if they went back to where they were. I'm just going to drive up onto the dam wall quickly and we can look down into that drainage line that's around there. See if we can spot them down that way. Keep your eyes peeled. Let's see if we can see them down in here. Now typically on this kind of afternoon, they'll be looking for somewhere to go and lie down, probably in the shade. So we need to check sort of in the deep spots of shade. Oh, I'll spotted him. Terrapin, frantically making his way back towards the water. Looks like a hinged terrapin to me. Here he goes into the water. I'm looking for lions, and the reason I'm quite happy to just sit for a moment is I also just wanted to listen for alarm calls. I can hear voices, but I can't see lions. Let's go a little bit further up onto the dam wall and then check down. Oh. Apparently the dam camera hasn't moved a little bit, but let's see if we can find them together. We're looking for flashes of ears and flashes of tail. Those are the bits that really stand out on a lion. Those dark marks behind them. So keep your eyes peeled whilst I navigate the dam wall and try not to drive us over the edge in desperation looking for lions. Oh, so beautiful. Stop and see. It's gone very quiet. What it could be is they might have come from the other side. If they were the Birmingham boys coming to have a drink, They might have started heading back to where the rest of them were. And just to clarify, maybe if I can put it to you, which lions you think they were, it might give us a bit of a hint, because I don't think they've come down here. I haven't seen their tracks crossing the road at all. So let's go back that way. I want to go to that side. The waterbuck are running, but I think it's just high spirits. He ran this way. No, I think they were just cavorting. Just the joy of the day. Beautiful waterbuck bull though. But I think let's go back that way. I suspect it was a Birmingham boy or two coming for a drink, and they're going to head back to where they were before. If that is them. Alright. Well, one thing about the Arathusa dam wall is that it's not exactly turning space. Well, there isn't any turning space. So we're going to do this next segment of our live drive in reverse. Nine tracks going underneath. Oh, I see them, yeah. I see them coming this way. But these are... So VM spotted some lion tracks. They're coming this way. Let's go back that way. Well done, VM. They're going back the way we're going now. They've been... There they go. I'm just concentrating for one moment. I'm just listening to the radio as well, just to make sure I can see what's happening. Here we go. Safely navigated without falling off and plunging VM and myself down. Oh, there we go. Cedric's got lions. I think they must have come to have a drink and then gone back this way. Well, that explains why the waterbuck were running. The male is feeling a little bit in high spirits and harassing the females. I don't think he's having any luck though. Shame, the poor ladies. He went to all of that trouble and then promptly disappeared back. Here they are, looking a little bit confused and probably slightly irritated. Now they're not alert at all. They're not looking around. They're not looking in any way stressed as though waterbuck have come around this, as though lions have been here. I'm not too sure where these lions have disappeared off to. Cedric's got the Birmingham boys over that way. Let's head across there and see what he's seeing, and then we can always come back and double check to see if another male didn't come through that way. I just want to go and double check how many Birmingham boys there are there. Let's go and find out. Cedric for Jamie. Confirm if you've got the Birmingham there. Copy that, thanks. There were reports from some of our viewers about other lions around the dam. I'm just following up here and then I'll make my way through now. seem as though there's anything here. The waterbuck are looking really, really relaxed. Terrapins all over the place. It's so good to be back. And Donna, there's another terrapin out of water, which does sound like some kind of reptile disorder. He's looking very confused with life and rather, can't quite decide which way he's going to go. I think our arrival has also slightly disturbed him. There you can see how covered in mud he is, he or she. I can't tell. And there's such interesting animals, but so smelly. Alrighty, let's head across, see if we can follow up on those Birmingham boys, count them, and then move back around the other side of the dam if they are being flat. Now, Cedric described coming into this sighting as fairly difficult. So we might have to do a little bit of bashing and crashing through the bush. There's another one. Another terrapin. They all look like hinged terrapins to me. So lots and lots, as Donna said, lots of terrapins out of water. I don't know why he's going that way, there's no water there, but I'm sure he'll be able to find some groundwater. It always amazes me how you can have one big rain, a couple of puddles in the road, and all of a sudden, a couple of hours later, they're filled with terrapins. I don't quite know how they do that, how they get here that fast. Well, up he goes. It's alright, buddy. I don't want to scare you. I'll pull off to the side. Look at you go! Oh, mind my head. Sorry. Looks like it's digging. Now, it's not impossible that it's off to go and find a place to lay eggs. Although I think generally they tend to lay them closer to the dams and the water sources so that their little babies, when they hatch, have more access to it. Those incredible legs, definitely not adapted in the same way that tortoises are to land living. You can see his claws stretch out in the sand. Look how incredible that is. Wow. Fascinating to watch. Every now and again just stops and takes a break. Maybe looking for a cool patch to hide in. I don't know why he or she has settled down in the sand like that. It must be so hot because I can feel the heat radiating off the road. I'm going to shift. I'm going to see if I can sneak a little bit closer. The lions are not going anywhere apparently, so don't stress. I am on my way there. But this really is too good a sighting to waste. Okay, dude. We're just going to sneak around the side. Yes, that's a better place to be. Don't be on the road. Donna, I think you are right. It is around the breeding time for terrapins, as far as I know. I'm going to have to double check that, but I think it is. It could well be that this terrapin's on her way to go and find a nice, safe place to lay her eggs. I just think that it should probably happen somewhere closer to a dam or a water source. But maybe she knows something that we don't about how long it's going to, or how much it's going to rain this year. I wouldn't be surprised. These animals have quite an incredible sense of survival. You can see so perfectly those slightly webbed feet as she walks with those claws. And it's quite a painstaking process, and if we're right, if she is off to find a place to lay in, to create a nest, she's going to dig down into the soil. This little head poking out there. And what she will have, in the same way tortoises do, is something that's known as a bursa. So she can store water and then use it to soften the ground slightly to dig a hole. Now, I'm not sure how long it takes for the eggs to incubate. I think it's probably somewhere around, which way is she going to go? That way. Probably somewhere around 3 or so months. Disappearing off into the grass. Awesome. Really, really interesting sighting. I'm going to go and do a little bit more research into where terrapins go to lay their eggs, because I'm really curious now. And I'm sure that they must be similar to, well, no, they will definitely be in the same way that tortoises, the sex of the egg, so the sex of the baby that hatches, is determined almost entirely by the temperature at which it incubates. Ian's just giving me a really good idea. Let's go and have a look at its tracks. We've just seen it make them. Now we can have a look at them and see if I can find a nice spot. Ooh, it's quite tricky to see. Where did she go? She sort of went this way. I think, unfortunately, the sand might be a bit tough. Because it has just rained, I don't know that she's made much of an impression. But she did do a little bit of digging and a little bit of scraping. Let's try it, get around the other side. I'm curious. I want to see what it looks like when a terrapin does that. It's so similar to what a sea turtle does. I'm sure many of you will have seen those documentaries about turtles when they go up on the beach to lay eggs, and that's exactly what she looked like she was doing. Although I very strongly doubt she'd lay in the middle of the road. Can you see anything from that side, Ian? Have a look. No. Unfortunately, it was a good idea, but it doesn't look as though she's left much of a mark. Not a clear one that I can show you, at any rate. Anyway, something to think about for next time. Our little terrapin, who's provided us with such interesting behavior that we've just seen, it's disappeared. She's disappeared completely. And Gilly, you were saying that it moves so much faster than you expected to see it move on land, and absolutely it does. It actually never fails to surprise me. Even tortoises, with their reputation of being slow and steady, can be incredibly rapid, or seem to move incredibly rapidly when they want to. I love watching tortoises with their funny little legs. Amazing to see. And terrapins are just the same. And they are so perfectly adapted to occupy that bridge between water and land. power stations. I would like to take a standby on those in Bala, if possible. I'm happy to take standby too. I'm just trying to get through and let them know that I'm on my way towards that lion sighting. Otherwise, there's just vehicles trying to get in all around them. There we go. Sorted. Okay, well, we've got a bit of time still, just because, as you can imagine, it's something that a lot of the guides really want to show their guests. So we'll just spend a little bit of time circling the area and see what else we can find you. Hello, Impala. Oh, you're looking so pregnant, some of you. Very soon now, another month. And we're going to be knee-deep in Impala lambs everywhere. So exciting. And whilst our Impala slowly make their way towards the lions, which is something we are also doing, let's head across to Brent so that he can say hello to you all and give you a little bit of an update as to what he's been up to with his afternoon. I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Sunset walking safari. I've been jumping around here trying to catch this little instar phase of an elephant. Careful. Don't want to hurt him.
And you find me exactly where you left me, and I'm sure that Brent would love to have said hello to you properly. Unfortunately, one of the technical, not difficulties, but one of the technical challenges is to bring you these live safaris, and especially live bushwalks. Hopefully all is okay there, and they'll be back up and running very, very quickly. And in the meantime, we're going to do a little bit of a circuit of Arathusa. I think I heard reports of elephants along this road, so I'm going to just keep my eyes peeled there. Working on the Arathusa airstrip. What is that, sorry? Ooh. A couple of really beautiful Birchall starlings that Viam's just pointed out to me. And from starlings to blue jay and back to terrapins again. Blue jay is one of our viewers would like to know how long terrapins live. And I have to be honest, it's a really good question. I'm just thinking about what I know and whether or not they would live as long as something like a turtle. It's not going to be as long lived. I know that leopard tortoises, obviously, as the biggest tortoise that we get here, they have one of the longest lifespans of the chelonians, which is the family that all three of them fall into. And leopard tortoises can live somewhere in the region of up to 70 years. And I imagine that terrapins is probably a good 40 to 50, but I might have to double check that. Obviously, you've got those incredible specimens in the Galapagos that live for well over 100 years. But those are really, really large tortoises, and generally what will happen is the bigger the ellies, the bigger the animal, the longer they live. Hello, elephant. Let's go say hello to you. Oh, so good to have ellies. Let's go see if we can get to them before they cross past us. It's very thick in there, so I want to just get up here. Hello, Ellies. Oh, what a wonderful afternoon. Oh, there's one very, very clearly the matriarch female. She's huge. So big compared to the rest of the herd. I think they're going to keep moving. Let me just duck my head down so we can get a good look at them as they go. There she is. And that's the female I'm almost certain is the matriarch of this herd. She's leading the group. She's very, very big. Hello, elephants. Little one eating on the run. Mom's obviously decided that she's got places she wants to be. And I'm really hoping, they seem to be on their way to the airstrip. I'm hoping that instead of trying to follow them through here, which is only going to really stress them out a little bit, I'm hoping they're going to pop out there. May well be worth looping around, although they've stopped now to eat. Such a beautiful sound. Such a beautiful sound. That deep rumble that you probably heard, that's her way of communicating to the rest of the herd. And I think she's telling them it's time to, I can't tell if she's telling them it's time to move or it's time to stop. She seems to be stopping. I think she's calling to the various members of the herd, but she's telling them that it's time for them to move. There's one last female coming through, but I think let's try and head across to the nice open space. The airstrip is maybe 100 meters that way. Let's catch them while we can as they go across. I want to see what they do and which way they go. I might have to do this quite quickly. Nothing like having elephants in a nice open area. Here we go, we're about to catch up with them. Rob, you were wondering why we are just on one vehicle at the moment and with a bushwalk, and whether or not our vehicles are broken. Now, I've just arrived back. I only arrived back a couple of hours ago, so I'm not too sure exactly what's happening, but I do know that Wendy was just collected by Viam on his way through, back from the shop. I'm not sure what was wrong with Wendy, but she still needs a little bit of TLC before she can go back out and about. Hello, big girls. Now, I'm fairly certain that this youngest calf is hers. Very cute. That calf that ran off to the left of the screen just decorated his or herself with a branch instead of actually eating it, just kind of flicked it onto his back. Hello, Elise. Yes, you may go through. I've been watching the most incredibly interesting documentary series, or I did while I was home. Oh, hello, Eddie. There's that female at the back coming through. Beautiful big girl. And she will also be one of the high-ranking females. And there's a very typical arrangement for elephants to follow. So one either the matriarch or the sub-matriarch will walk in front, and the other will take a position at the back of the herd, walking behind them to guard them. Let's go see if we can get close to the airstrip and watch them as they cross it. And then I'll chat a little bit more about the documentary series that I mentioned. It was really, really interesting. Cannot cross the airstrip, so unfortunately we'll have to quite possibly wave goodbye to our Ellies for now before we go around. Let's just have a last look at them as they go, and then I'll loop back around to try and stay with them until it's my turn to go and see the lions. I can still hear them rumbling to each other. Now as we loop around, let's chat a little bit about what I was just saying, how the herd was basically led by one big female, and then the other second large female was coming behind. Now Grace, you were wondering if the matriarch grows throughout her life, or if there's a genetic aspect to the size that they reach. And it's a combination of both. Some elephants just are generally really big. They have big genes, they are very tall. And I know that sounds absurd to say because obviously all elephants are big. But some are bigger than others. In the same way you get that variation in tusk size. So you've seen some older females with absolutely enormous tusks and some with very short stubby ones. It is entirely genetically based. And that being said, she will also grow throughout her life, and that's for all of them. Now in this particular herd we only saw two, and that's not uncommon. They're just the oldest two in the group, and they're probably older by the others around the region of 20 to 30 years, so it might have been a slight split in the herd group. They might have moved off together alone and then started raising their babies, and then their daughters will start having calves as well. With these Ellies, I've seen a whole load of different age groups in a way that's actually quite different from lions. Typically lionesses try and time their estrus cycle, or they fall into an estrus cycle that matches up with the other females in the pride, so that their cubs have a higher success rate, because then both females can allosuckle the cubs, they can feed their own as well as the others. And Tony, who's watching all the way in Holland, you'd like to know if elephants can do the same thing in terms of their estrus cycle, so when they come into season and are ready to mate. And as far as I know, it doesn't sync up in the same way with elephants. You usually see a nice scattering of ages of the calves, and I think they don't need that advantage. They certainly don't suckle each other's calves for a start. And they've also got the whole herd to protect, and a herd is a very, very powerful protective unit for a young calf. An elephant calf survival rate is incredibly high because of that. So they don't need to sync up their estrus cycles in the same way that works towards the advantage of lions. They're quite happy to breed at different times, And it's actually probably better that way, because then their calf gets the attention, the sort of sole attention of everyone in the herd. Because all of the young ones tightly close-knit family to look after it and to guide it and to teach it. Really useful to have. I just want to double check on the Game Drive channel to see. I want to make sure I don't go too far away if they're going to call me in. Just going to wait for my turn to speak. Yeah, stations, what's the standby situation like now with the Birmingham boys? I think I'm going to start making my way towards that area. I know that block that the Ellie's disappeared into. It's really, really thick. And it's going to be tough to stay with them. Can any station copy me? I just wanted to check how many vehicles are at the Birmingham boys and just to plan my route. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. Perfect. Alrighty, well, we've got open permission to come into the sighting, so let's head across there. Those Ellies are moving away from the Arathusa Lodge, but apparently they've been targeting the lodge recently and heading across there pretty much every single night and going up to the garden and then getting cross when they get chased away, which elephants do. They sometimes get very unimpressed with the people chasing them away. Now we have a question from a viewer, and I'm really sorry, I'm not sure, I can't quite hear your name. But you were wondering what it is that's drawing them. Okay, there we go. It was Pretty, who is watching in Dallas, Texas. And you wanted to know what it is that's drawing the elephants there. And it's a difficult one. I think it's a combination of seasons. Obviously there's the water there. There might be something, one of the trees might be fruiting. And they're particularly attracted to the smell. They might be trying to get through there for that reason. It could also be just because it's dry, the gardens are watered, and so it becomes a nice place to go and get nutrition. Sorry guys, give me one moment. Standing by. Standing by. Copy that, thank you. Just confirm, they're on the power lines. Are they more towards Triple M side or are they more towards the lodge side? Copy that, thank you. Alrighty, let's go find some lions and see what they're up to at the moment. Okay, so elephants. Back to the question I was answering about the elephants going to the lodge. I'm starting to think that what's attracting them or drawing them there, in answer to Pretty's question, is something to do with trees fruiting or maybe flowering. There's something that they want to go and eat there and they can't get there and it's frustrating them. It's fairly common to have elephants coming through camps, and sometimes they do just spend quite a bit of time in the area. It might be a herd that associates lodges with nice food and wants to stick around. Alright, let me see if I can figure this out. Oh, it's not too difficult. There's car tracks all over the place. Let's go see how difficult it really is to get in there. Some really amazing information through from viewers about terrapins, and I do want to say a really big thank you. I so appreciate it, and it's such a perfect way to learn. I don't know if any of the viewers remember that thin marbled lichen moth that we spoke about weeks ago, and I saw one land in Kruger yesterday, and I was so excited that I knew exactly what that was, and that was largely thanks to the efforts of the viewers. Now there's plenty of it coming through, and a big thank you to you all. Apparently they do breed at this time of year, so from around October to January, and they can lay their eggs up to 500 meters away from water, which is pretty much, she was right on that boundary. And follow my way and find my way to these lions. And they lay somewhere in the region, I think, of 30 to 40 eggs. So amazing information coming through. Go and make our way into some lions that have proved to be really, really interesting in terms of their effects on the dynamics of this area. And it's something I was chatting a lot about. When I was on leave, I went on holiday to the place where I used to work, and I went to go and visit my dog as well and give her a bit of a cuddle. I'm just trying to work out exactly where to go from here. See if we can figure this out. But one thing that I used to do while I worked there was to construct ID kits or identity kits for the various animals. And Rob, you were wondering if I've put them together yet, or if I've started doing the same things for the leopards and the lions of the Sabi Sands, which is something that I said that I would do. And I have fairly and largely thanks to the many screenshots of the viewers, I have a lot of pictures that I've put together just for my own use so that I know the leopards. It has been a very interesting exercise, and it's a really useful way of learning to identify them. I don't see any vehicle tracks. I just... There we go. This must be them, surely. Okay, let's go find them. just come off Power Lines Road. And David in New Jersey, I think that's what you're asking about. You said that you could see vertical poles as we were driving along. And that is the power lines that supply the lodge with electricity. It's always interesting to me that generally they don't get targeted by anything. We know how much elephants push over trees and rub themselves. Where are we going? We're going this way, I think. Looks like. Sorry, VM. Stuck. See what Cedric was saying about getting in here. That's the right spot. I don't see any lions, do you, Viam? I don't see any cars either. Maybe this was this morning's off-road track. It's difficult because the guy who was guiding me into the sighting hasn't actually been to the sighting. So he's just trying to describe it to me. I don't see any vehicles, I don't hear anything. Go back and start again. See if we can catch them from that side. I can smell them. I can smell lions everywhere, so we're very close. Definitely the distinct odor of lions. They've been here and they've been territorial marking. I can smell it. Okay, well, it's not a disaster. We've got plenty of time left. Let's just see if we could try again. We'll start from the beginning again. Road going that way. Okay, let's give it a go. Liam spotted some off-road tracks that could well be where we need to go. While I do my 20-point turn and search for these lions to show you, it seems as though Bushwalk is up and about and Brent can finally say hello to you properly. Let's head across to him for now and I will be back with you very soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, with these mysterious lions that have disappeared. Enjoy your time with Brent.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got a squirrel alarm calling in this drainage line ahead of us, so hopefully there's some form of sorry, there's the culprit. Looks like it just landed there. Looked like a little bird of prey. Where's he gone? That's a very interesting one. There it goes again. Looks like a bird of prey very, very often when they fly, but it's not. There's an African cuckoo. Squirrel's still alarm calling. I wonder if the squirrel got confused by the cuckoo. But let's go have a look. So there's a little drainage system here. So we're going to try sneak through. The squirrel sounds like it's probably about 60 meters from us. I wonder what it could be. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear that, but that African cuckoo is calling. Cuckoo, cuckoo. The squirrels have gone quiet. Obviously it's much harder to see what's around at the moment. All this new foliage. So we're just going to go really, really slowly. I would have guessed those squirrels were just in this little drainage line that's starting here. You can see there's a Tumbuti thicket, favorite spot for our spotted friends. Leopards love little drainages, Tumbuti thickets. So we're going to try spot the squirrel, and quite often if the squirrel has spotted a predator, it'll be looking in that direction. I'm pretty sure that squirrel was right here. They've gone quiet. So I think we're just going to duck through the drainage and get into that Tumbuti thicket, see if we can see any tracks. It's really, really still. But I can hear something that is just as interesting as some of the bigger stuff, and only a few of them, and I know we did show them to you a few days ago, but the Tumbuti jumping beans. I can hear some of the seeds popping, so I'm just going to get around where we can get the camera underneath. There he goes, moving a branch for Gendre. So the squirrels have gone quiet, and that definitely doesn't mean there's nothing here, but it means it might be a bit harder for us to see what was around, and could always be a predatory bird. So let's see if we can find a jumping bean. So here's the Tumbuti tree. This one looks like all the beans are exhausted already. All the moth larvae have already escaped. You can see they're out and empty and quite dry. But I can hear a few popping. There's a little bit of a thicket here, so we're going to go look around. Well, we just heard that African cuckoo calling, telling everyone what his name was. Cuckoo, cuckoo. And Khair is just saying she really, really loves that. Makes much, much easier to identify. Now, stalking a single moth larvae, on the other hand, is proving a little bit more difficult. There was a pop there. So, this is the right spot. Now you just got to look at the ground carefully. There you go, just get the aerial through there. So, the floor is littered with these seeds. Most of them have popped, so I think we've missed the main pop of the jumping beans, but there are a few around. Look carefully. All the ones I'm seeing at the moment have already been vacated. And what I'm listening for is the tiniest little noise on the ground of that bean jumping. And then once I can pinpoint the sound, I'll try to spot it. They're being very quiet. Not quite the jumping bean, but a very young, and very vigorous millipede, or songololo. There you go. So quite freshly hatched by the looks of things. Bless you, Jandre. And so these guys are detritus eaters. So they eat all sorts of rotting vegetable matter. And from that they get that hydrogen cyanide, which makes them quite noxious to most animals. The only mammal that really eats them here is the African civet. And they have a special amylase that's created by their pancreas that sort of breaks down the poison's proteins and makes it completely harmless to the civet. A lot of birds also have that, and they're able to eat them with no problem. But these Tambuti jumping beans are really playing havoc with me at the moment. And I think some of you might notice I'm wounded severely. There we go. Thanks, Chandra. So the Kruger National Park, where I went on holiday for a few days, was built probably in the 40s and 50s when people were a lot shorter. Chandra has now got himself stuck for putting the camera that close to my face. So people were a lot shorter, so the roofs of the houses, there we go, literally are at eye level. And last night I managed to ding my head against one, and we can hear them popping around us, but actually seeing one there. So we can show you, while we look for a jumping seed, we can show you a seed that hasn't been parasitized by the moth larvae. So basically when they are parasitized, each one of these little sort of sections of the seed will have a single larvae in it. So yeah, that's a non-jumping Tambuti seed. So we're looking at a nice Tambuti seed here that has the chance to propagate and create more Tambutis. All the seeds that have been parasitized by those little emporia moths are not. They eat the whole seed, and they actually take up that whole section. So any seed that has an emporia moth in it will never grow. It's been eaten, snacked. Did I see one? I think I might have seen one. No, false alarm. Oh dear. They're really playing havoc with me. So, well, Barbara says in the States you get a thing called a Mexican jumping bean that you get in Tijuana. And she wants to know, does Mexico also have Tambuti trees? No, there's a different species of moth that parasitizes a different tree there. I can't remember the name of the tree that they parasitize, but the moth is of the same family, so it's a cousin of the Timbuti, the one that parasitizes the Timbuti moth, the Timbuti tree, and it's a little ambrosia moth. I can't remember its full Latin name right now, and they're called horn moths, and they're very little grey, indescript creatures. I can hear them popping, but I cannot find one. And not very many popping. There seem to be a few more popping at the next set of Timbutis. Ooh. We have a
Well, as you can see, we did eventually find our way through the block and managed to find the lions. We do apologize from your rapid departure from Brent, but definitely a rather beautiful view to show you all. We might have to do some shifting around in this site, and there are two other vehicles trying to get a nice view. We've definitely taken one of the best spots, but they're looking absolutely beautiful in this afternoon light. There's only these three at this particular side, and then the fourth, who I will show you in a little bit, I think is the one that's been nicknamed Scrapper or Tokolosh, depending on who you ask, and he is on the other side, but we'll reposition to have a look at him in a moment. As to where the fifth one is, I honestly don't know. It could have been the lion that went off for a drink. I'm not sure how many there were this morning, if it was just these four or if there were all five of them together. Look how beautiful they look. And they definitely couldn't look flatter than they are at the moment. Paws in the air. Just a perfect way to spend the afternoon. Oh, and that sun shining through their manes. I swear they've grown more mane in the time that I've known them. They're definitely filling out into beautiful lions. And for those of you who don't know, this is a young coalition of 5 males, known as the Birmingham Boys. And they've very recently conducted a pride takeover, or at least a territory takeover, in this area. So they've caused quite a bit of chaos over the last few months. Things are slowly starting to settle down, it seems, from what I understand. But they've definitely established Juma and Arathusa as part of their core territories. And it will be very interesting to watch how this dynamic of 5 males is a big coalition. And it'll be interesting to watch how this plays out once they have established themselves as the dominant males of this area. Whether or not they're going to split off, as the Mapohos did. I think at the moment they're a little bit young. They might try and stay together for now. They're still young, even though they don't look particularly small. And they need each other's support. But as for that one young male who's missing from this group, it could be the first sign of things to come. And coalitions do that, and they will split off for a while into groups of 1s or 2s or 3s. Wander around for a bit, and if necessary reunite again, without much in the way of acrimony or any kind of fighting between them. And a tooth sticking out. I think it might be. So relaxed, he's sleeping with his mouth open. One of them has I think it's a bit of an injury on his back leg, the one that's rolling now. But it's very hard. We've been struggling to get a good view of it. They're not too full either. I imagine there's going to be some serious hunting tonight. They look like they need to eat. There's a lot of work that goes into being a male lion. To put in a lot of effort, especially young males on the verge of doing a territory takeover. They have to patrol regularly, they have to make sure that there's no marauding males coming in. They have to wander the boundaries and spray them with urine to make sure that their scent stays fresh, especially on days like today where it's rained. So the rain will have washed a lot of their scent markings, not necessarily away completely, but they certainly won't be as strong as they were. So they'll be wandering around trying to remark everything around them. And the same thing happens with leopards as well. Straight after rains, they start to wander around and remark their favorite territorial spots. It will be very interesting to see as well how big their territory does wind up being. Now, I know that many of you will be familiar with the 6 Mapocho males, who by the end of their reign, or by the sort of the height of their reign, they owned an enormous, well over half of, or they controlled well over half of the Sabi Sands Game Reserve itself, which was probably led to them having a territory of around 30,000 hectares, although they did split off in between. It'll be interesting to see if these young boys actually follow suit, or whether or not they have a slightly smaller territory that they can maintain and protect, maybe in a slightly more effective way actually. There's plenty of lionesses around for them, there's plenty of food, and there's plenty of mating opportunities, so it will be interesting. We have to keep our fingers crossed as well that they stick around where we can see them, because it has been such a learning curve for all of us to see how they've conducted this entire process and how the lionesses have responded, how the Matimba males, who were the previous dominant coalition of 2 males, how they've responded. And it will be interesting now to see how this whole process plays out. I will try and reposition in a moment, but for now let's enjoy the view we have in the late afternoon sun. Now, I've mentioned that things have mostly calmed down in terms of the male-female interaction. Now, just before I left to go on leave, and I know that you will have seen them regularly since, the Salala Pride had moved up into this area to try and get away from the Matimba males who'd pushed their way down towards Londolozi. Now, Pretty Nightmare is telling me that not only were the Nkuhumas here right up until last night, but they've also had some conflict with the Salala Pride. And that generally is fairly common, but it has been such an interesting way that this whole saga has come full circle. The Birmingham boys kicked the Matimbas out. They terrorized the lionesses for a while, fought with them, they killed a couple. It was very dramatic times and very, very sad moments. And the Matimbas then went down into Londolozi and promptly terrorized the females there before they moved up here. And I think things are going to start to calm down a great deal now. But it still unsettles the pride dynamics. And prides, they don't really tolerate each other's company, really. They generally stay out of each other's way, and actual proper conflicts are fairly uncommon. Oh, gives himself a little bit of a cuddle there as he rolled over. But it's interesting to hear, and thank you for that, Pretty Nightmare. It's very interesting to see how this whole dynamic plays out. Stacy, you were wondering... It's so cute. It's amazing how cute male lions can make themselves look when they do that. But as I said, we've only got these 3 here and a 4th off to the side. And Sandy, you were wondering where the 5th one is. And I honestly don't know. Shannon, you were wondering if it's possible he might be mating somewhere. Maybe. I haven't been back long enough or up to date as much as I need to be in order to really answer your question. But it's entirely possible. He could also have gone off towards the dam for a drink. I'm not too sure. I think what I really want to do now that we've got a clear moment, is there's our 4th Birmingham boy. I think he's pulling a tongue at you guys. Look at him. That's fairly rude, mister. No, he's definitely putting his tongue out in disdain. That just goes to show what he thinks of us. Okay, let's reposition. Go and see. I think it is him. His black eye is healing up nicely though. It's starting to look a little bit different. I'm going to shift as well because I just want to make sure that the other guests in the other vehicles have a chance to have a really nice view from this side. Never fear, we will be back with him shortly. Making some space for you. Oh, big yawn. Big boy. I just didn't quite get far enough forward, but there he is with his tooth out. The one thing about these Birmingham boys is that they are quite young and they are quite blonde. If we have a look at those tufts of hair on his elbows that are slowly starting to come through. Janet, who's watching us from Boston, wanted to know whether or not all males or all male lions have these dark patches of hair on their elbows. And they do, but obviously it's not necessarily always dark. It's the same as the situation with the manes. Now typically darker manes are a sign of higher testosterone, but it's also genetic. So certain lions will have blonder elbows than others. I don't think, I could be wrong, I could be proved wrong, but I don't think his are ever going to turn particularly dark. They're a sort of gentle shade of blonde at the moment. Same as his mane, just a little bit darker. And I don't think that he's going to change very much. Look at those enormous feet. And what's really interesting is that, as far as I know, those tracks, or from what I can remember, those tracks on the dam wall were not that big. I wonder if it was maybe one of the young Birmingham boys, but it could also be another lion that's moving out of their way. We'll have to go back to that area in a bit and go and see if we can find any sign of them. And just the tip of that canine tooth sticking out. And they're such incredible structures, those canine teeth. I was hoping he was going to yawn nicely for us again. But if you ever see them from a lion that has died, which I did get to see. They are incredible. The length of the canine is startling in itself, but obviously you will have seen that. But the length of the root that anchors it into the lion's skull is not quite double, but just under double the length of the canine tooth itself. And obviously you need it to be really firmly anchored in there, because they use those teeth to bite and bring down prey, and something like a struggling buffalo is incredibly powerful. And yet for the most part you don't really see lions with missing teeth. You might miss an incisor or two, but they're built to stay maintained, even if the lion gets kicked or struggles with an animal. Those teeth are so firmly anchored into their skulls. And I always think that young lions, maybe not quite as scrappers, he's starting to fill out nicely, but I always think that teenage lions look a little bit like adolescent boys in terms of their slightly patchy facial hair development that is only just starting to come through, and the little mohawks that they get. And it's hard to imagine exactly how young these males really are. They really are. We always, when we sit and watch and look at the tracks, we look at the 4 toes that show through along with the back pad. And Kathy, who's watching us from Tennessee, you wanted to know about the 5th claw, or the dew claw, that these lions have. And it doesn't show through in the tracks, and we can just see the one of his right paw. It's quite tricky to spot, but it's up there just in the middle of your screens, or just above the middle of your screens. And those dew claws are also, having spoken about how firmly anchored those canines are, those dew claws are equally well anchored. And it is essentially like a 5th finger, or a 5th toe, rather. Toe, I think, is probably the better word. And it sits right on that top ankle part of the bone. And when lions go and hunt, they use them as a way of actually holding and getting into them. And it's the biggest claw by far. And if you have a look at the way that it's structured, it's tucked away in a bony sort of sheath, or a cartilage sheath, that protects it and stops it from getting dirty or anything along those lines. Why did you wait till then to yawn? You just have to wait for him to yawn again. Those dew claws are an incredible structure, and you can just start to see on the top of his foot, in the way that he's lying, there's a dew claw there. Very firmly anchored and used to bring down prey. It is one of the most highly evolved foot structures that we get out here. You would have heard me calling these gentlemen the Birmingham boys. Although I don't know whether gentleman is a bit of a stretch or not. But the reason that they are called the Birmingham boys is they come from a pride known as the Birmingham Pride. And Tina, you wanted to know a little bit about prides, prides and coalitions, and how they get their name and who names them. Now, in this particular place, and in this particular circumstance, the Birmingham Pride, which was apparently an enormous pride of lions, close to 40 members at one point. Now, the Birmingham Pride generally hangs out or has a territory around Birmingham Farm. So it's a piece of land that is connected to the Manualeti and to Kruger and to where we are now, but it's called Birmingham. And that's generally where the prides get their names, and they will adopt it of the sort of the area that they are. It's not always the case though, and it will usually be named by common agreement between the guides, or as a term of respect for somebody they might get a chance to name them. But for the most part, they're names that have stuck around for quite a long time. Bear in mind that female prides, the Nkuhumas or the Sticks or the Talamatis, any of those lion prides around here, they could have been here for generations. Because females stick together, they stay together throughout their lives, and so the pride continues on. It never changes or becomes different. The only thing it might do is split away. And then typically when the boys or the male lions leave their pride and start to form a coalition, they tend to keep the name of the pride that they came from. That's the general rule. There are exceptions, and what we'll also find now that for example, the Birmingham boys have been referred to as the Gowrie Males by some guides. Different guides in different areas call things different things, essentially. Now, these lines are very, very flat. They're not up to very much. And I think in a moment I'm going to leave. But before I do that, I want to answer one last question from Miss Jin. You might have pet cats at home yourself, and you were wondering whether big cats would react in the same way to catnip. And the answer apparently is yes. I've never seen it myself, but apparently they do. Maybe not in completely as dramatic a way as a house cat might, but it does very much attract their attention. And it was something we were thinking of doing when we were racking our brains years ago trying to figure out how to count the leopards in an area where they were very, very skittish. And we actually thought about trying, instead of baiting them, which would have messed with the situation, we thought about putting catnip on poles with camera traps. We never did it in the end, but apparently it does have a similar effect on them. Right, these lions are not up to much, but I promise you I will be back. I want to go and investigate what was happening around the dam and whether or not it was the 5th Birmingham boy. And whilst I do that, I believe that Brent is back up and running on his bushwalk. Let's head across to him for now, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later. And never fear, I will return to these lions.
So, after our very interesting and I think Jandra and I are both very, very clever fixing of our signal pole, it broke. So what we've done is we've put a stick inside it, and then we have duct taped it closed. So hopefully it'll hold for a while. So we've moved out. We're not going to go through too many thickets with our precarious aerial. So we just stopped next to this nice little mud wallow, and you can actually see there's a couple of how they've been formed slowly. And I'm going to start with this one here, and there is a frog I heard calling in here, and I've been sitting here quite quietly trying to spot the frog. The frog is smaller than my fingernail. It's called a dwarf puddle frog. And it is proving more elusive than even the jumping Timbuti seeds I was in search of earlier. Not making any noise now, but you can see this wallow is probably formed by elephants in the beginning, starting to kick up a bit of dirt and stuff like that, and then a little bit of groundwater would have then, and you probably found warthogs would have wallowed it in a bit, maybe a buffalo or two, and as it's got bigger and bigger, now it's sort of buffalo sized, and I can see the eddies have been back here, and they would have kicked it out, dug it out, and sprayed some nice cool muddy water on themselves. It's not very deep. We'll see. There you go. That's how deep it is. But nice to see water on the ground. I mean, it's been, even though it is so green, we are definitely in a dry spell. So I'm afraid I cannot find Monsieur Dwarf Puddle Frog. But, do you see that there, Jean-Andre? You got it there? It's a little hornet or wasp, and what that is doing is it's come down to the edge here to collect mud to build its nest. So, not seeing it? Okay, let me try again. Don't want it to fly. No, there, it flew. A tiny little red hornet. They've got a very vicious sting. And I was attacked earlier today by a vicious creature called an assassin bug, and it stung. There we go, you can see it almost looks like a little pinprick. So while I was moving around, that nasty assassin bug landed on my leg, and they've got a really, really interesting hunting strategy, and that's how they get their name. They actually fly and land on the back of other bugs, and they've got these incredibly overdeveloped forearms compared to the rest of their legs, and they basically land on the back of insects sometimes much, much bigger than themselves, and they grip with this incredibly powerful forelegs, and they insert their proboscis straight through the carapace of the other insect and will literally suck the insides out. And they can do quite a nasty sting, and the one problem when you get stung by them is not actually the sting itself, is they're actually a very, very dirty mouth part. So I must definitely remember to wipe some disinfectant on it when I get home. So I'm just going to have a look. Oh, there we go. What do we got here? Oh, very, very, very pretty. And tiny little flower called a justicia, and this is a felt justicia, and the community to the south of Singita and Londolozis on the other side of the Sabi Sands is actually named after this flower, so that's the name of the village, is Justicia. They like these sort of very short grass disturbed areas. Having a quick look around here. I'm quite excited about these. This one hasn't got any fruit on it yet, but it's called a white berry bush. Another one of those really nice sweet things we eat. But the reason I stopped next to the white berry bush is we saw a tiny little millipede. And how's this? There's a tiny hatchling over here on top. Tiny little one. And see, it's still almost see-through. So it's probably been born in the last day with the rain. Sorry? Here we go. And next to it, purely by chance, is a very big one. Maybe it's mommy or daddy. And there's a sub-adult. We've got 3 different ages of millipedes here. We've got a huge adult, a tiny one, and a sub-adult. So this is an ideal little spot for millipedes. And as Jean-Andre is panning across, you'll see all the dead wood and rotting vegetation around, and that's what they feed off. So that's why we've got quite a few of them around this little spot. What else? I saw something else big and scary. Where did it go? Oh dear. I don't know if you've still got us. If you have, make a plan went south. And I'm just going to show you quickly if we still... So just have a look here quickly. So unfortunately, our duct tape and stick did not work. So I'm afraid we're going to have to disappear again. Try to fix the thing again. So sorry about that. I'll try to keep some signal so we could say goodbye. So we'll see you hopefully a little bit later.
It is amazing what you can fix with duct tape, but you never know when it's not going to be exactly what you need. I still think duct tape is one of the most useful things that you can have out here. Duct tape and a leatherman, and probably cable ties as well. Those are the objects that you need when you're trying to fix things. I fixed a car once with my shoelaces. We didn't have a piece of string, stupidly. I always carry string now, but we didn't have a piece of string at the time. And the steering column fell away from the wheel, so essentially the wheel just did that. So I tied it together with my shoelace to get it back home again. Worked perfectly. Not a permanent fix though. Right, well, as you can see, I've left the lions. I am going to return there a little bit later. I'm on my way back around the dam wall and to investigate and see whether there's any lion action there. The Egyptian geese are making a noise. We're definitely one of the noisiest birds out here. And it could well be that another pair flew past and they're giving them a send-off. They can be quite fiercely aggressive and defensive. I don't think this is the mother of the goslings, or the parents of the goslings. This might be a different, they would have left their goslings alone. They're very, very good parents. Okay, well, they seem to have quietened down. Must be one of the most widely distributed birds in South Africa. There's no place that you go, except maybe into the western areas and the desert areas. There's no place you can go in South Africa with without bumping into a pair of noisy Egyptian geese. And they can be very noisy. And I've had a couple of experiences walking along rivers where they followed me and shouted at me for a good 2 or 3 kilometers. It can be quite irritating when you're trying to sneak up on something and they're flying behind you and letting the entire world know that you're there. Okie dokie. Back towards the dam and let's see what we can find there. Just want to loop around and double check the drainage line on the other side of the dam wall. And whilst we head there, I want to hop onto the Game Drive channel again and get hold of the Arethusa guys and just double check and see if they have managed to catch up with Shadow this afternoon. Oh, conversation. I always have that exact moment where I go to talk and somebody else starts talking. Nice to see that there's plenty of groundwater now. This is a perfect little mud wallow for something like an elephant. Oh, remember what I said about terrapins? Sorry, I promise you I'm not trying to theme this as a terrapin themed drive, but there's a terrapin in here. Where's he gone? I just saw his head pop out. Might come back, there we go. Well done. Oh, back under again. And this is very close to where we saw the terrapin earlier. Oh, that's very pretty. I have absolutely no idea what that is in terms of which dragonfly, but it is gorgeous. So nice to see. Well, what I was saying earlier about terrapins, to find something just like this spot. to stay safely in. Okay, bye-bye terrapin. It's our 4th terrapin sighting of the afternoon. It is nice to be back and to see all of these creatures out and about again. I'm just heading across to the dam. Apparently there's an elephant there now, so let's head across there. That I touched on earlier to continue our theme of terrapins in the mud at Arathusa. Mike, you wanted to know if terrapins are similar in the way that they're... Weren't you running from guinea fowl? You're chasing each other. Sorry Mike, I'll be back to your question in one moment. Watch the movement of their legs as they jog and see if it reminds you of anything. In particular, if it reminds you of the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the first Jurassic Park movies. Because that is what they based the motion on, was watching the way that guinea fowl run. You can see it perfectly. I watched that movie fairly recently and the movement was entirely based on guinea fowl. Random and fun fact of the day. Oh, beautiful. And we're back once again. I do apologize for that delay. Every time I try and answer poor Mike's question, he gets interrupted once again. Wow, they've got big. Look at that family of goslings. They're almost sub-adults now. And if you hear some screeching sounds, don't worry. Nobody's in any way injured. It's just some children playing in the lodge swimming pool. They seem to be having a wonderful time. Look at how big they are. Oh, that's incredible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, these geese have done very well. Very proud parents. And it is because they are such attentive parents that their goslings have survived as well as they have. Because as you can imagine, there's quite a lot out here that wouldn't mind snacking on a baby gosling. And speaking of babies, I'm going to try and answer Mike's question one more time. Yes, it's determined by temperature. Mike wants to know about the sex of crocodiles and terrapins and so on in terms of their incubation temperature. What's really interesting is that for crocodiles, and now I need to think about this, for crocodiles, the males are incubated at a hotter temperature and the females are incubated at a cooler temperature, and it's so narrow, that margin. You're talking sort of 26 to 30 degrees and 30 degrees to 34 degrees in terms of the difference in the sexes. But interestingly enough, in reverse, the tortoises, the females, are incubated at a hotter temperature than the males. Oh, nest building. That might have been a bit ambitious from that buffalo weaver. Wow, what are you going to do with that, mister? There we go, we have our answer. Right, wow. That was very impressive, and it just goes to show how it is that buffalo weavers do such a good job. And I'm going to turn around just to show you the nest and then you'll understand why that giant piece of thorn tree that giant nest, or that giant twig and that giant thorn twig that he was carrying, I'm going to show you why he does that. And it's something that's very unique to buffalo weavers, and not something that makes them terribly popular if they're building nests around your camp or in your garden. There we go. That's their nest there. So that individual flew straight across there to add to the nest. And those are the buffalo weaver nests. They're communal breeders, so they're cooperative breeders. And those maybe 5 or 6 birds are responsible for that entire giant nesting system that is constructed almost entirely from bits of acacia and other solid thorny trees, which makes it almost impenetrable to a predator. You can see every now and again you'll see them hopping around, those little black birds with bright red beaks. Buffalo weavers. And a very clever and interesting approach to nest building. And they do it so fast. Those nests are constructed incredibly quickly. And one of the other things that they will do is if they build in your garden, they're messy to the point that they don't really bother too much about whether or not they drop a couple of twigs every now and again, as you can imagine with a nest that big. And it means that you've got to be very, very careful. What are you shouting at, Hippos? You've got to be very careful about walking without shoes in gardens that have nests from buffalo weavers. Oh, I'm just so happy to be back, I don't know where to turn half the time. Let's try and get back. And apparently, without meaning to, I actually answered June's question from earlier on in the drive, and I do hope you're still watching, June. You wanted to know what the big nests are that you see on the Arathusa Dam camera. Well, that's your answer. They are buffalo weaver nests. I'm just stopping to see if maybe our hippos are going to give us a bit of a show. They were talking to each other earlier. There's a couple of floating islands of algae and moss around this dam, on the backs of the hippos. Apparently, while I've been gone, there's been a fairly new arrival, because I don't think I've seen a tiny baby hippo, but apparently there is one. And Gracie, who is 8 years old, has named that little hippo Lily. And I'm going to try and see if I can spot her for you, Gracie. And keep our eyes peeled. Might be tucked away with mommy somewhere. And amazing to think that even at those small sizes, they can still hold their breath and function in a dam like this. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that there's a new baby. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled. Sure. That one looks fairly tiny, that we are looking at in the middle of your screen. But not new baby. This must be a different one. But Gracie, I will be keeping my eyes peeled for young Lily. I hope she's around somewhere. And keep watching the Arathusa dam camera so that we can stay updated on what little Lily has been up to. And this is such a peaceful setting. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but there's a pygmy calling, or the red-chested cuckoo that we started our drive with. I can hear one calling somewhere off in the distance there, going, there it is. There we go. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but that is the bird that we were looking at earlier that I was trying to imitate. And I have called them across to me doing that before, because they are territorial. So if you whistle back at them and you get that exact pitch right, they will come and investigate and see what you're doing. Speaking a little bit about bird calls that we haven't heard in a while, and the fact that the cuckoos are back, there is one very distinctive call that is still missing. And Geert, who's watching in the Netherlands, you want to know when the woodland kingfisher are going to be back, and the answer should be very, very soon. Getting into November now, they should be around soon. I'll be keeping my ears out. This is around the beginning of November that we start to hear them. And of course they will arrive back in different places at different times. But for those of you who don't know, it's a beautiful kingfisher, really striking, bright blue and that white contrast beautifully. And a very, very clear call, very strident almost whistle. And it's the sound that for me will always, always be associated with summers in the Lowveld. We have had such a terrapin-themed drive, somewhat accidentally this afternoon, and we've just been looking at those hippos in the dam. Jim, you were wondering how it is that they interact with each other, so how do terrapins and hippos interact? And the answer is fairly peacefully. The terrapins are too small to really be of any kind of bother to the hippos. And sometimes the hippos make for really useful islands when the terrapin is tired of swimming around and wants a break and a spot to sun itself. They very often see them climbing onto the backs of the hippos. Just popping around the back of the dam into the drainage line just to see if I can spot anything. Let's just stick our nose in here. But for the most part, I've never seen any kind of antagonism between hippos and terrapins. negotiate this. Oh, bit of a bump. I imagine something that's only going to get worse as it starts to rain. But I did just want to stick my nose in here and see if there was any sign of those lions. Doesn't look like it though. I don't see any tracks. Not want to go over the top here. Let's just do that. Over we go. Right, I mentioned that I've been in the Kruger over the last few days. And right, so you were wondering if I've seen any really interesting birds, or if I saw any interesting birds. And the answer is yes, a couple actually. One of them was a Cory bustard. Let's try and get out this way. Cory bustard is the largest flying, or the heaviest flying bird in the world. Really, really incredible looking things. They weigh up to 17 kilograms. They're big and tall with very powerful legs. We saw a Cory bustard, we saw a secretary bird, we saw two secretary birds. What else did we see? Wattled starlings was also nice to spot. I haven't seen them around here. I certainly haven't seen them on Djuma. I'm trying to find my way back to the road, but I think I may have taken the wrong turn. No, we'll get there. We'll get there. Here we go. Back out and about. What else did we see? Kruger's always awesome for birding. The one thing we were looking for is known as a racket-tailed roller. It's one of the only members of the roller family, so same family as the lilac-breasted roller. It's one of the only ones I haven't seen. And we're keeping an eye out for that. It's right on the border of their range. They're mostly in Mozambique. We're searching for those. What else did we see? The one thing I've always been really keen to see in Kruger, and I still haven't managed, is a Pell's fishing owl. So a really rare, or at least very uncommon, species of owl that you only really find along rivers. Hence the name fishing owl, obviously, because that's what it does. No sign of lion tracks coming out here either. And I am thinking fairly soon, I just want to do a short loop and then head back towards those lions for the last half an hour or so of the sunset safari. As we leave the dam and do a quick loop around to see what we can find, I know that many of you will be keeping an eye out for the little hippo that was named by one of our very loyal 8-year-old viewers named Gracie. And Heidi, you were wondering, if hippos can't swim, how do baby hippos cope? What do they do? And for those of you who are new, look like a Wahlberg's being mobbed by a drongo. Look at him go! Oh, well spotted VM. That was incredible. Really, really common to see that. The drongos, particularly at this time of year when all of the bird species are breeding, and it usually happens with drongos. They're quite an aggressive species of little bird, and they can be very, very violent in their defense of their nests. And you very commonly see them mobbing big raptor species like that Wahlberg's. Okay, Chica, don't you start. Right. There's so much happening. I keep getting interrupted in the things I'm saying, but that was an awesome sighting. Now, Heidi, who's watching us all the way in Switzerland, we mentioned that hippos can't swim, and they can't. And for new viewers, that might seem like a really strange thing, the fact that these hippos live in the dams that they do, and yet they cannot swim. And it's true, they hold their breath for 5 to 6 minutes at a time, they sink down to the bottom, they walk along the bottom, and then they pop up. There's an elephant there, but he's going to be very difficult to get to. I don't want to disturb him, and I can't get in. It's so thick down on this side of the drainage line. But in terms of baby hippos, Heidi, what they do is they often rest on mom's back. So if she's sort of slightly tilted in the water, then they might rest their feet on her and use that way to support them. Otherwise, the mom will be somewhere in a shallower area so that her baby can stand near the edge of the water. And only if there's a threat around the edge of the dam will they rush back to the sort of deeper sections. But that baby, as I said, even at a young age, I'm trying to work it out. Oh no, I think it's just stagnant water, and some of the mud puddles has acquired a certain smell to it. The baby hippos are probably one of the cutest things to watch. And they can suckle underwater as well. They can hold their breath for a long time, even at a young age, and they can suckle underwater. And then they'll go out with their mothers and graze around the dam. Although by the sounds of it, this one is so young it won't be even thinking about solid food yet. There's no tracks of any lions coming out onto this road. I'm not sure whether it wasn't one of the Birmingham boys going to have a drink. As to where that 5th Birmingham boy is, I honestly don't know. I haven't seen any sign of it here. We do apologize for that brief break. As you can imagine, bringing you live safaris from all the way out here sometimes carries with it a certain level of the occasional technological gremlin that invades our area. Now, just before I disappeared out of your lives for a little bit, chatted a little bit about Kruger sightings in terms of the birds, and I mentioned the Corey bustard, and I said that it was the biggest flying bird. I should have been a little bit more specific, because Heidi, you were wondering, surely the biggest one is the condor, and the answer to that is I'm judging it by a different standard. The Corey bustard is much heavier, as far as I know. I think the condor, just in terms of sheer size, wing length and body length, is bigger, but it's not as heavy. And if I could just stop for a moment, let me stop and do this properly. If I stop for a moment and show you a picture, I can explain a little bit better what I mean. Let's find the picture. And you can see how incredibly, here's it, 146, stocky they look. And when they do fly, it's not the world's most graceful of, here we go, that's the Corey bustard. You can see it's very thick, and when I say it's big, it is, how tall is it? It's probably close to 1.5 meters in terms of height. That is really big. No, that must be an exaggeration. It must be just over 1 meter, not quite 1.5 meters. But it has a serious body size. And if we look at the figures, this isn't my other bird book, but as I said, it can reach up to 14 to 17 kilograms, which in pounds is, which way does it work? 17, yeah, it's close to 35 pounds in terms of weight, which makes it one of the biggest in terms of mass flying bird. I'm going to double check how they define the biggest bird, because the condor is enormous, There's also certain species of albatross which have the most incredible wingspan. They're not as big, but they're built for long, long distance flight. I'm just looking at comparing some of the various sizes of the different birds around the world. Barbara was wondering where the wingspan of a whooping crane would fit in. And I have to think about that. I'd probably have to double check and look it up. It's a big bird, it's a very big, very solid bird. It doesn't quite have the wingspan to the extent that something like a condor might have or an albatross might have, but it's probably in the region of being close to one of the smaller species of eagle. So even something like a fish eagle wingspan would be about the same. It's probably around, wingspan is probably around 1.5 meters. Just thinking about it, maybe up to 2, but I'd have to double check that. Barbara, honestly, I'm whilst we make our way towards the Birmingham boys in the next few minutes, we're still talking a bit about the hippos and that little baby that apparently was seen. And I mentioned that they can hold their breath fairly well, as well as the fact that they can suckle underwater. And Grace, you were wondering if they give birth underwater or on land. And the answer is they give birth on land. For the most part, unless something serious happens, and the labor takes them by surprise, they will go out into dry land, because it's important that that baby is given a proper chance. You know, you can imagine how disorienting it must be for them, and then to have to try and push that baby up to the surface so that it can breathe. It makes more sense for them to go out onto the surface. That being said, try and loop around this way. That being said, it does put them in a more vulnerable position, because they're now open to all kinds of predators that they don't usually have to face out on the bank. And I know there was an incredible story that I read of a female hippo that had gone into labor, and it was obviously something quite tricky. Maybe the baby was slightly breached in some way, but by the end of it, the mother was absolutely exhausted. And whilst she was lying on the bank, a hyena started to come up to explore the baby and probably to kill it and eat it. And in response, while that was happening, an elephant herd had come down to drink. And one of the older females of that elephant herd peeled away from her herd and went and chased that hyena away from the baby hippo, and then left the baby hippo alone. Now, I don't know how that works or what's going on in their minds. It could be that she just simply didn't like the hyena. She wanted it out of her space, and it had nothing to do with the hippo. But I also wouldn't be surprised. I think elephants are so smart. I think there's a really good chance that that elephant was trying to save that baby hippo. You just never know. This way. This is not where I want to be. I don't really want to go and deliver anything to Arethusa. Oopsie. And as we make our way back around, hopefully without any more wrong turns, Jill, who's sending her question through on Twitter, apparently saw a documentary where the hippo was running along the bottom of the dam. And they absolutely can do that, and they can move quite fast. And not only that, it actually makes them one of the crucial factors, or a very useful factor at least, in terms of keeping, especially rivers, and large waterways that might build up silt deposits and various dead matter that might get stuck there, they actually help to keep it clear just by their regular movement through the water. It keeps it stirred up and clear. But they can run underwater. They can run even faster on land. And I know many of the regular viewers will know this, but definitely not something to be ignored in any way. Just because hippos look big and slow and probably a little bit clumsy doesn't mean that they actually are. And I've seen hippos run on a couple of occasions, and I know for certain that I could not in any way outrun them. And I've also seen one turn basically in a circle, a very, very tight, almost in the size of its body. It managed to change directions. Jump back to the conversation we were having about big birds, and we are nearly at the lions, but Ria was letting me know that the biggest albatross wingspan is 3 meters, which is absolutely enormous. It really is phenomenal. But then if you think about the way that they fly, and they hardly ever land, they essentially soar through the air pretty much the entire time. That is still incredible to think of. That's essentially almost double my height in terms of its length. And then Raisa, you were saying that a Cory bustard's height is 140 centimeters. Thank you. So I was close to 1.5 meters. Thank you all for your feedback. That's one of the things I love, is how much I learn, not only in my own time and from observation, also from the interaction that we have between us as presenters and you guys watching us. And it really is one of those gloriously heady evenings. It's beautiful. Everything smells beautiful. There's a damp smell from the rain. It's still warm. The birds are all calling. It really is the most beautiful evening. And there's a smell that happens in summer that I can't describe to you. I've never experienced it anywhere else in the world. It's that after rain smell, but it takes on a certain, obviously, it takes on a certain tinge in Africa that is just one of my favorite things in the world.
Like wet dust.
Wet dust. That's exactly what it smells like. Whoa. No, not yet. Not yet. Gotta go to the other power line. Making my way back to the lions in the dark. We have a viewer watching from where I've just been back to visit in my home city, or the place of my birth and where I grew up. And Tegan, you were wondering if there've been any reports of brown hyena in this area, and to the best of my knowledge, no. They are fairly unusual. They're very, very shy, especially in areas like this with high lion and high leopard densities. But it's something that I always get really, really excited about seeing, and I'm always on the lookout for. I had a really nice brown hyena sighting when I went back to the place I used to work at, but it's a slightly different environment. It's much rockier. There's plenty of places for them to go and hide and den in rocks and caves instead of just in termite mounds in the way spotted hyenas do. Trying to liberate the spotlight from where James has placed it underneath the rain cover of the car, but I think that might have to wait for the moment. Here we go. Back onto Power Lines Road. We might go through a little bit of a dip in signal just up ahead, so bear with us, it should be fairly short. Just a little bit of a dip. I'm also hearing so many more cicadas and other insects that I wasn't hearing when I left. I know the cicadas were out before I went, but there's also just a lot more in the way of sounds. And now what I'm really looking forward to and waiting for, and something that Brent and I did when we were in Kruger, was whilst we were driving up the Timbavati Road, we listened to frog calls to try and embed some of them in our heads. I'm looking forward to start hearing some of those again. Pardon? The other thing about being around in summer is that, especially with lights on a vehicle, there are definitely certain insects that get attracted to it. And one of the biggest dangers is dung beetles, because especially if you're waving a spotlight around, they absolutely love to come zooming straight at your face. And just to go back, because we are seeing more and more dung beetles out and about with the rain. Jeffrey, you were wondering what the bugs were at the terrapin, at our really nice terrapin sighting in the road. There were a couple of bugs moving around, and for the most part I think they were all dung beetles. My memory was I was focused on the terrapins, so I'm not sure if they were all dung beetles, but there were definitely some dung beetles there. Find my way back into this block and remember exactly where I went off it. There we go. Oh, wait, not just yet. Just after that fall. Here we go. Let's go see what those Birmingham boys have got planned for the evening. They're definitely looking very hungry. And while I'm there, I can liberate the spotlight so we can have a bit of extra light. Seems as though we're going to have them all to ourselves now. Here's the side road. Here first. Watch it. Is it through here? Yes. There we go. A little test in orientating myself. That's interesting and fairly unexpected. I think these boys have moved. I wonder where they've gone, which way they've gone, where they're off to. Right, let me just stop for a moment and liberate the spotlight and double check they haven't just shifted around. Here we go. I definitely did not expect them to move this soon, unless they've gone for a drink. Trying to listen for alarm things as well. They can't have moved very long ago. It's quite unusual for the Birmingham boys to be early evening movers. Doesn't look like it. Alright, I think the one thing they're probably not going to do is move through this block. I think they're going to try and find a road. Let's see if we can find them and find out what they're up to. It is exciting because they were very, very hungry looking. I think that these boys have gone out and about hunting, but please keep your eyes peeled on the Arathusa Dam camera as well, because there's a chance they might be heading across for a drink. I'm going to do a loop around this block and see if I can catch up with them there. But I think they're on their way. I think they're going to go hunting. And Tina, just if they do kill them, you were wondering if I've ever seen them not eat the intestines and then bury them. And the answer is yes, I have. Many, many, many times. They flick sand over them. It's something we saw them do. When was it? Where were we? The Incoming Pride for Buffalo. And I think it was when I very first started working for WildEarth back in July. And we saw that they had basically covered up the stomach content. And it's a way of hiding the smell, you know. It's quite a primitive way of hiding the smell though. Leopards will actually pull out the stomach content, which they don't like eating, and then move the kill away from that area. So that the smell of the intestines is not associated with their kill. But lions do it as well, and I almost think it's quite a residual instinct. It's not one that, because lions will sit around a kill, they won't drag it away or anything, they'll sit around a kill for days at a time. I don't think they feel too threatened, but they do it. I have seen them do it. They also do it with their dung. I mean their scat. So if they have got, are next to a kill and they defecate, they will scrape sand over that as well. And that we definitely saw the Nkahuma lionesses doing a couple of weeks ago when they had the buffalo kill on Arathusa. Definitely didn't go that way because we've just come from there. I think we would have picked up on them. Now it's times like these for guides where it becomes a little bit of a guessing game, and that's where experience is so valuable in terms of predicting what the animals are going to do, or trying to in any case. It doesn't always work, but it's useful to know, and that's why, although everybody needs a break, it's quite difficult being on leave and then coming straight back, because you haven't built up a timeline of what the animals are doing. Something in there.
Yeah, behind the tree.
Behind the tree there.
Yeah.
Let's go see. Oh, there's a bush baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bush baby. I don't know, it's right at the back of that knobthorn now. Jumped up as I was watching. I think that was the bush baby. I really, really want to get you all a really nice bush baby sighting. But they're so tricky, they just jump and move. I'm going in the opposite direction to the Arathusa Dam camera because I know that if the lions head in that direction, you guys will be able to spot her or spot them. But Christine, you were wondering how far away we are from the Arathusa Dam camera so that you can help me keep an eye out for those Birmingham boys. And the answer is probably about 700 meters or so, 800 meters. From the dam, and it'll be, they'll approach from, if you're looking at the camera, they'll approach from the right, or they should anyways, from the right, or yeah, from the right hand corner, the eastern corner. That is where they should pop out. Keep your eyes peeled because they could well be coming that side. Really interesting piece of information about the brown hyena movements. Just to get back to, I think it was Tegan's question in Johannesburg, and Susie, you said that you saw brown hyena twice on the airstrip last year, and that could well mean that that's a good place to start looking for them again this year, because they do, just like spotted hyenas, they do reuse dead sites. So if there's a clan or a family living there, we might see them coming back to that area. The other thing is that many brown hyenas can be completely nomadic. Come on, Birmingham boys, where are you hiding? So they've popped out here. I'm going to do another loop around the block. And whilst I do, we can try and listen, or at some point listen to the sounds of the evening, especially when we close down the show. Now, Raisa, you were wondering what species of nightjar we hear around this area. The most common one is the fiery-necked. I have heard European before, once or twice, but very seldom. And there's actually quite a few other species that are around, and I have to double check because this is a new area to me. Well, not that new, but it's new enough that there are different birds. I'm going to have to do a double check as to which ones we get here. I used to work up near All Days where all we heard was the trill of the European nightjar. I wonder where these lions are hiding. Oops, sorry, scrub hair. Frog! I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. Just chatting about frogs. No, there he goes. Oh, there he goes. He's just at the top of the light. Where did he go? Where'd you go? There he is. Well done, Liam. Try not to blind him too much. I'm going to double check his species. He's a little bit too small for an eastern olive toad, which is what I thought he was first. It is a frog. It is definitely a frog. Oh, scrub hair. Is he still? Yes, he's still there. I lost him for a second. Yay! The frogs are all coming out. And testing my knowledge. Oh, there's a scorpion too. I don't know if you can see it, Liam. Where'd he go? Oh, there. Oh, all the creatures are coming out. I leave for 2 weeks and everything's out and about. Oh, he's caught a... Did you see that? He caught a flying ant. He had one of the termite reproductors in his claws, in his pincers. Oh, where did he go? Lost him. He went down into his hole. That is so cool. There's obviously been a population explosion. They're all flying around me, and that's what he managed to catch. So a flying ant is not actually a flying ant. It's one of the... you get these populations, explosions of them every now and again from a termite mound, especially after rain. And it's essentially the reproductive termites who are dispersing away from their natal burrow or their native termite mound. And that's what he managed to capitalize on. That was so cool. Sometimes it is just worth stopping and having a bit of a look around at the little things in your area. That was epic. I was in the middle of answering Raisa's question about nightjar species that we get in this area. And I'm going to have to double check. The most common is obviously the fiery-necked nightjar. The nightjars are something that I've only started hearing calling in the last month or so, and they're also reaching their breeding season, but I'm going to keep an eye out for them. They love roads, and an explosion of flying ants like the one we've just driven through would be a perfect hunting ground for them. So it's not just the scorpions you get to capitalize that. I think that's why the frog was there as well. I think he was also catching them. The birds will also be taking full advantage of them. really, really excited about that moment with the scorpion catching the flying ant. But it's something that happened so fast that I barely saw it, and we wanted to make sure that those of you who might have missed it, maybe you turned away for 8 seconds away from your screen and missed out on the action. And what we'd like to do is just do a bit of a replay of it, just to show you exactly what it is that I got so excited about. Let's have a look at that clip now, and I'll be back with you very, very soon. Oh, he's caught a, did you see that? He caught a flying ant. See what I mean about how amazing that was? It really was incredible. There's a flying ant down my shirt. It's okay, it's out again. It really was something quite special. And it's stuff like that that we're going to start seeing more and more. Not just because it's summer and the rain's come out, but because we've got things like bushwalk out and about. And that's why it's also one of my favorite things. Driving is incredible. You get to experience the bush, you get to cover distances and spend really quality time with animals. But being out on foot is where you really start to see things just like what we watch now, more and more frequently, and you get to learn so much more from watching them. And it's always a bit of something, it's actually something that I would say has been one of my challenges in starting this job, is that I want to stop and really talk to you guys and, you know, speak to you and speak back to the camera, but I also want to spotlight efficiently. So Arcadia, if we need somebody to come and do the spotlight for us, I promise you, you'll be the first to be called upon, since you have called shotgun now, effectively. I'm trying to find you more amazing things to show you. Sorry, Waterbuck. Don't want to blind you. But Vicky, you were loving that scorpion kill. You said it was your first live scorpion kill. I think it was mine as well. I've definitely never seen it from in this kind of situation before. I have seen scorpions hunting, but that was just such a good demonstration of how fast they can move. Now, that little scorpion was one of the least venomous kinds. It's a little bark scorpion, as far as I could tell. It was quite difficult to tell because it's dark, but I think it was a little bark scorpion. And with his thin tail and rather large pincers, I think he had. Was it that way around? Yes. It would make him fairly non-venomous. So he's reliant on those incredibly powerful pincers to grab something like a flying ant and to quickly drag it down the hole. And there's all kinds of insects falling into the car with me. I can start a collection. Try and get this twin spot to show you. Maybe see if I can. Here we go. A twin spot beetle. Something that I'm sure you've heard the other presenters chat about, and has an incredibly potent acid that it's capable of secreting if threatened. Definitely one of the big reasons why you don't, if something flies and lands on your top, why you don't hit it or smack it. Because if it is something like one of these little guys, then it's going to get scared and it's going to react in a defensive way and release a bit of acid that can burn your skin. But incredible, fast little predators. And the road is the perfect place to be for guys like this. He's going to be hunting around. Now, I've said that a lot of these things that he's hunting are currently making their way into the vehicle. And Pretty Nightmare, you were wondering if we cover the cars at night, or whether we then have problems with not unwelcome, that's not fair, they're not unwelcome, they're just not really necessary guests who make their way into our vehicles. And the answer is we don't cover them unless it's really raining, but we do have covers. But for the most part, as soon as you turn your lights off, the bugs don't come into the car. Right, where's the speedball? I don't want to drive over him. That's it. Go, buddy. Oh, here we go. He escaped. He very sensibly shot into the opposite side of the road. Right, so yeah, if the lights are not on, I haven't had a problem with beetles and bugs finding their way into the cars, no more than usual. But then again, it also gives us something exciting and interesting to show you all the next morning. What I am fairly careful about, especially because my car sits stationary, my personal car sits stationary for quite a long period of time when I'm at work, as you can imagine. I don't really have much need to drive it. But I am very careful about rolling up my windows and making sure everything's sealed up. Because the last thing you want is something like bugs going in, but then also rats and snakes as well sometimes make their home. Get a little scrub here. I can't tell what that is. Oh, it's a little stem bookie. Oh no, it's not. There we go. Nightjar. We chatted a lot about nightjars earlier. And I think that's one there. I'm not going to go off-roading. It's very eroded in that particular area, so I'm not going to go off-roading after it. But it seems as though our Birmingham boys have disappeared. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the morning holds in order to find out where they went to. But definitely, after we close the show, I would definitely advise looking at the Arathusa Dam camera, or even the Juma one, because it's not a hard distance for those boys to cover. I wonder if they've gone off hunting. We'll just have to wait until the sunrise safari tomorrow morning to find out where they went. Hopefully they come and call and mark their territory once again in the next few hours. There's nothing like hearing 5 male lions roar. But since we have come to the end of our sunset safari, I just want to say that it is wonderful to be back, and I'd like to say thank you to you all for your warm words of welcome back. And of course, thank you to Vian and to Brent and Jandre for their brief moments, as well as Tara and Jerry in FC. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will catch up with you tomorrow morning on the Sunrise Safari. Bye-bye for now.